It's starting.
Oh, there you go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this in the middle of the week Wednesday, where we deal with the hard stuff of recovery. And in keeping with that, I thought that we would talk about a topic concerning regret. And you know that all the other series that I normally do during the week, they all have been postponed because I'm doing a series for 90 days that's entitled The 90-Day Destiny Transformation, where we're starving our history and feeding our past and taking hold on the life that Christ died for us to have. And so today I just thought that it would be good to deal with regret. Okay, so if that's something that you think that you might want to hear, encouraging you to stay by, try to stay to the end. Um, I have plenty of information that I need to give you, so please stand by. So for those of you who do not know, my name is Sheila Rollins, and I am the founder of H.U.L.A Ministries, Entertainment and Associates Inc. And on this YouTube, we are Overcomers Anonymous, where we support anyone desire to overcome anything. And we do it with Jesus Christ being our higher power. And I'm looking for my little cross. I should have had it out. I didn't think about it. And also, because of what Christ accomplished for us on a cross. Therefore, our wholeness, our completeness, our cleanliness, those things that we thought were impossible, our forgiveness becomes possible with Jesus Christ being our higher power. In order for us to get all that he has, we need to be obedient to his word. And I encourage the King James Version because it's what he encouraged me. And the Ten Commandments, where he admonishes us to keep the seventh-day Sabbath. So check this out. The arrow next to the title is a description. And so all this information will be there. Also will be there is the information about the video. It'll say topic scriptures. So check that out. So, all right. So basically, I looked up the word regret. And so I hate regret. And I know hate is a strong word, and I guess that's accurate for what I feel about regret. But anyhow, the Oxford Dictionary says that regret is a feeling of sadness because of something that happened or maybe something that didn't happen. And so comment down below. Below the title is the comment section. You can comment there. Anything that you like, you can comment on your own regret story. Give me a topic that you would like for me to present. You can just say hello, okay? But whatever you would like to do with that. So basically, I was thinking about like some stories in the Bible about regret. One of the things that I regret, and I'll get to the ones in the Bible. One of the things that I regret is remember I told you that it took me 20 years to get an associate's degree. I was the first of my mother's children to go for college and complete. I had another sister that went to college, but she didn't complete it. But anyhow, for 20 years, basically, well, I shouldn't say 20, maybe about 19 years, I kind of went in and out of school for whatever reason. I would quit for whatever reason. Anything that came up, I quit instead of maybe cutting back and maybe doing maybe one class instead of two or two classes instead of four or whatever. I would just quit. Have a baby, quit. Get married, quit. Whatever the situation was, quit. Until, I didn't even know or understand why it was that I was quitting. But when the Lord brought it to the surface, what it was is that I was struggling with the whole ideal of if I graduated from college, that I would be better than my mother. And my whole system was basically rejecting and resisting against that. And this is why, I would, for 20 years, well, it took me 20 years to do an associate's degree. But anyhow, the way that God had resolved that for me was that being a parent myself, and wanted my own children to do better than I did, I put myself in the same position in dealing with my mother to say that my mother wanted me to do better too. And so actually, my mother was like cheering on and basically like on the edge of her seat, waiting for one of her children, somebody to graduate from high school or college or something. And so basically, once the Lord released me, once I got an understanding, was able to resolve it, the Lord released me and I graduated from school 2004, 2005, 2006. I think that's right. Yeah, 2006. And then finally 2011 that I finished, right? But anyway, perhaps you may be dealing with some things that basically has held you back and you don't understand, maybe you wish that things were different or whatever the situation, was. The thing that I think about is in those 20 years, I could have used that time to finish up the goal that I'm working on right now, and been working in, my area of expertise instead of wasting that 20 years. But however, if it didn't go that way for me, I wouldn't be able to talk to you about regret and come from a place of knowing. And I think the thing that was so hard for me was the fact that, when we decide to be great, when we give ourselves to Christ, mind, body, spirit, every part of our being, we work against generational curses. So whatever it is that our parents did not confront, because see, back in my parents' day, a high school diploma wasn't even necessary. Jobs were plentiful. And so they didn't need a high school diploma in order to get a good job. They didn't even need to go to college. But of course, many people went to college, but my parents did not. And so basically, I didn't have a point of reference for going to college. I just knew that it was what God had put inside of me, to fulfill. I'm looking at, the things that my parents did, my mother, my father, the caregivers or whatever, that was basically what they call a ceiling. When they talk about a ceiling, that was as far as I was supposed to go. But it's not true, because each and every one of us, the Bible talks about basically that, God has ordained us and sanctified us for something. And it may not be what he ordained our parents for or sanctified our parents for. It may be something totally different, And so basically, as an individual, we have to present ourselves from God and allow God to work in us individually. The thing that I like to look at is that I came into this earth by myself. Even if I was a twin, okay, we came out one at a time. We didn't come out together. And so what I'm figuring is that, we have to warm up to the whole ideal of being lonely. We have to warm up to being who God had created us to be, unadulterated, unapologetically, to be who we are, who God has ordained us to be, and we have to, for the next generation, and instead of just as an inheritance leaving houses and cars and cash and all that kind of stuff, we need to leave a legacy of being who God had ordained for us to be without regret. I think about the job that God had Moses to do. Now, before I do that, I just want to remind you to please check out my other YouTube, which is The Pursuit to Christ, okay? Check out the playlist on both YouTubes. I have something great there for everybody. CPR for marriage, CPR for singles. I have food. I have tutorials about hair and eyebrows and eyelashes and all kinds of stuff. So you want to check that out, okay? So anyway, Moses, God had ordained for Moses to be a deliverer for the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. I need to check my time. Coming out of Egypt. Now, Moses was prepared, because remember, Moses was raised by the king's daughter. So he knew the language. He knew the land. He knew the shortcuts and, the long way, the scenic road, or whatever the case was. Moses, God had prepared. And then Moses was bold. Moses was courageous. And so basically, Moses' testimony was that rather for him to live life in the palace, that he would rather suffer, with the people of God, than to live the life basically in the king's palace. Okay, so basically he denounced that life for Christianity, and as a result of that, he became the perfect person in which to deliver God's people. He had this tremendous relationship with God, okay? And like I said, God had prepared him for the job that he had for him. And still, Moses, in his humbleness, when God called him to lead the children of Israel, he's talking about, he couldn't speak and all that kind of stuff. But the part that I want to get to, before I get to that, let me tell you this. I'm still selling my vegan meat alternatives and sides, non-dairy ice cream, and other desserts, which is all fundraising. When you purchase that, you help people to transition into a life with Christ and also the life that God had ordained for them to have. So please support the fundraisers. And in the description, which is the arrow next to the title, there's my contact information that you can place an order. So, okay, you're not vegan, but veganism has a good rep. It can reverse diseases. It can prevent diseases. It can help with longevity of life. And, if you're vain like I am, then it can help with those young genes. It can help you to hold on to your youth. So please check out the vegan meat alternative size non-dairy ice cream fundraisers. And so basically, when Moses was leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, they complained and they cried and stuff. And so while they didn't want to deal with God up front, they were basically dealing with Moses. And Moses would find himself sometimes shouldering. And we're supposed to do that, shoulder the infirmities of the weak. But we're supposed to pray and leave it with God. We're not supposed to keep it on us or, take it on us because we're not God and it'll weigh it down. Well, in one situation where they were thirsty and there was no water around, and they chided with Moses and they fussed and they murmured and they complained, which God is not in agreement with complaining. Because basically the Bible talks about all we have to do is ask and we can receive from God if it be his will. We don't need to complain. God has 1,000,001 ways and more in which to provide for us. So what did Moses do? God gave him instructions telling him to speak to the rock. See, God was trying to get more and more people to trust and to believe in him, to have their hope in him, to have him as their help, to have confidence in him, to trust and believe in him, like I already said. And so basically, what did Moses do? He struck the rock. And as a result of striking that rock, God could not allow that Moses would go unpunished. So what did God do? The land in which that Moses was leading the children of Israel into the promised land, which is Canaan. God allowed Moses to look into the land, but Moses was not allowed to step his feet in the land. Do you think he had regret? I would think that he had regret because he never was able to get into that land. What the Lord said was, flowing with milk and honey. It was a land where giants live and stuff like that. And it was abundance with, produce and all kinds of goodies and land, and all that. And yet Moses had a missed opportunity. And so basically, that's what one of the things that regret is, missed opportunity, And so I was wondering, I was trying to use Jesus as an example, and I was trying to think of something that maybe Jesus may have had regret about. And I was thinking about like Lucifer. I mean, he was the most beautifulest angel that God had created, okay? I mean, he was a choir all by himself. But there was iniquity and sin found in him. And remember, the same tools that God had provided for us was also allotted for Satan as well. It wouldn't be God to be a respecter of person and allow us forgiveness and all those things and not extend that to Lucifer too. But however, there was no turning back for Lucifer. There was no repentance for Lucifer. He carried on his way. He wanted to be God. It wasn't enough for him to be next to Jesus or, his position that God had given him. It wasn't enough. And so I wondered whether or not Jesus had regret from creating Lucifer. I guess that would have to be a question that we would have to ask Christ when we get around the throne. But however, in dealing with that hard stuff of regret, it's a hard thing to come down from. But however, it may be impossible with man, but nothing is impossible with God. And remember, the Bible says that we should cast our cares on him because he cares for us. I know that in some of the things that I regret, like for example, one time I was looking for a snowsuit for my great niece that I was caring for. And I described it to a T. Now, y'all know that I like leopard and zebra and camouflage and all that. That's my stuff. And so I said that I wanted a leopard snowsuit for her. I don't want it to have closed-in feet because I wanted her to be able to wear her boots. I just described it, a hood, it was nice. I goes to the department store, finds it, and decides that I can go somewhere and get it cheaper. I asked them to hold it for me. But however, I goes to another store. They did not have one. I comes back to get the snowsuit. They had sold it to somebody else, even though I had asked them to hold it. Did I have regret? Absolutely. But the way that God comforted me and the way that worked for my good, well, let me deal with one at a time. The way God comforted me was that the winter was almost at the end. And so at the time, she did have something that she could wear. You know what I'm saying? And so that really helped me. But that regret, today, when I describe something to God that I want, and he reveals it to me, oh, I buy it. I don't waste no time. I buy it. But perhaps in your case, rather than you waiting another 10, 15, 20 years, sitting in your rocking chair on your porch somewhere and telling your grandkids, I wanted to be a nurse, or I wanted to be a doctor, or I wanted to be whatever, I wanted to open up a restaurant or a daycare center or even a school, whatever the case is. We can have no regrets. Move forward in the name of the Lord. If it be the Lord's will, the Lord said if we would acknowledge him, he will direct our path. And anything that God calls us to, he pays for. So the Lord will bless us, but we have to move out in faith and live a life without regret. This is all that I have for you. I see y'all in the next YouTube. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and ever. I love you. See you in the next YouTube.